Hello again, Indiana high school football fans, and welcome back to Hoosier Prep Gridiron and our weekly podcast. We have another edition today for you of the Coach's Corner, where we visit with Indiana high school football coaches from around the state. We are way down in deep southern Indiana today at Jefferson High School, visiting with Jeffersonville High School. Visiting with second year head football coach Joe Washington. Coach, great to see you again, and welcome to the podcast.
Oh, thanks for having me on. I'm super excited to be on here and talk football with you.
Great. Love to talk a little Jeff football. Just a little quick background. Coach Washington is entering his second season at Jeffersonville. Red Devils had a pretty good year last year. Went 6-4 overall. Good bounce back year. They were 0-10 the year before that. So that's quite a heck of a first season, Coach. I'm sure you built up some momentum. Before we get into a little bit of last year and a look ahead, I'd like you to take a few minutes and maybe talk through your personal background, your playing background, your coaching background, and what were the circumstances that brought you to Jeffersonville last year?
Okay, we'll start. Obviously, my name is Joe Washington III. I coached prior in Louisville for 12 years. Was an assistant at schools like Ballard, Butler, Doss, and I finished up my last year before I came over here at Atherton High School. We finished 11-2 that year. Run game coordinator, did some offensive coordinating. So, I was had a big involvement in that. I actually came to Jeff. Well, I actually lived in Jeff I've been here since 16 years, just traveling back and forth across the bridge over to Louisville to coach. I was a middle school counselor at River Valley, and that's where I got hooked up with, being introduced to people here at Jeffersonville, and ultimately was able to interview for the job because I was been in the community at the middle school.
Okay. Um, let's go back and take a quick look at last year. Obviously you inherited a program that was really struggling. Came off a 0-10 season in 23, struggled several years before that. I don't know what the expectations were, but you went 6-3 during the regular season. Opened up the year with a really good showing against a tough Whiteland team. Very strong Class 5A school. Then won 3 games in a row, two in the Hoosier Hills Conference. So finished the season 6-3, 4-2 overall. Obviously, kind of a tough way to end with a loss to a very good Center Grove team in the postseason tournament. But kind of walk us through the expectations of that first year, the reality of how it turned out, and then maybe coming out of the year, what were the high points that you and your staff identified?
So with the expectation part, obviously my expectations were, 7 to 8 wins, just being a competitor. A lot of the expectations around the community was like, hey, if you just win 1 game, we'll be happy. 2 games, we'll be happy. Really wasn't too thrilled with that. So, the expectations was always 7 or 8 games. Realistically, 6 was probably where we topped out at, which, made a successful season. But overall we're pleased with, the turnaround and the direction that we're going. Coaches, we identified, some areas that we're going to need to fill in next year.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, we lost a lot of high caliber players. 7 guys that are going on to play college football next year. So we have to replace those type of kids
Well, a lot
with
of talent.
up and coming
Yeah.
Younger kids.
Well,
So
I got to tell you, I can't imagine how anybody couldn't be anything but thrilled with the results from last year. Obviously you're down there in hardcore basketball country, and the focus has always been on hoops down there in deep southern Indiana, and a lot of staffs have struggled. But to win 6 games after an 0-10 season is really just remarkable. And congratulations to you and the staff. Coming into what would you say were the major priorities for your group coming into this winter season of strength development, speed development? You know, how do your kids look in terms of overall size and strength and positional depth? And I think specifically maybe across the offensive and defensive lines, where I think you made a lot of progress last year.
Yeah, so our main focus, I think our focus last year is different from this year. Last year we were looking to break the mold the kids into a different cultural, different mindset. So a lot of the things we did were geared towards the mindset, changing the culture and, toughening up mentally. So this year, we got a young group of freshmen that are going to be pretty good. So we're trying to develop focus more on the strength and conditioning aspect of it. Get these guys in the weight room lifting weights proper. We brought in a strength and conditioning guy that's breaking it down from the bare bottoms to teach the kids the proper way to lift. So one, that their bodies can maintain throughout the season, and two, when they get our age, that their body's not falling apart from lifting wrong. So
Sure.
uh,
Know
so
what you're
we
talking about there.
we yeah, absolutely, I definitely do. But evaluate the 4 losses that we had, and we, as a staff, we figured we were uh, weight room. We lost in the weight room.
Hmm.
Those 4 teams that beat us, obviously, Center Grove is a great program, one of the top echelon schools in Indiana, and that's where we want to be in the future. However long it takes us to get, that's the type of program that we want. So we got first glimpse at what my vision for this school is and where we want to be at. So,
You bet.
with Floyd's also, a good program. Columbus East is a great program. So, we lost to some program teams, which to be expected. But, when we continue to build our program, those losses are going to come 50-50, and then they're going to start changing into our favor. So,
Now heading into this year, will you still be you were 6A last year. Will you still be 6A this year?
yes, we'll still be 6A.
Okay, let's talk a little bit about the Hoosier Hills Conference. So this is a pretty good league. Columbus East dominated that conference for 15, 20 years, and about 4 or 5 years ago, the landscape changed, and Floyd Central obviously is a big school with a lot of resources, and might have the most to bring to the table. What's your overall assessment of the weekly in and out competitive level of the Hoosier Hills, and do you think you got a football team after winning 4 games last year, might be able to make a run at a conference championship this year?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, the Hoosier Hills is a great football conference. Some awesome coaches, great coaching minds within this conference. I look up to respect a lot. What Floyd's doing, what Columbus East is doing over there, even New Albany. I know that's a rival, but I look at their programs and see what they're doing. To sustain success through all these years, and I think with the direction that we're going to start competing for some of those conference titles.
You bet, Coach. Hey, you said you lost quite a bit of high-end talent. 7 kids going off to play in college, which is good for any school, let alone a 6A. Who are some of the younger kids that you're seeing? Maybe coming off of last year's performance, or maybe some kids that are really standing out in the weight room and the speed development, maybe playing another sport. Uh, Top two, three, 4 kids that you're going to really be counting on to provide some leadership and both on and off the field this year.
Well, the first guy that'll be returning, he played 3 games, and I think he broke his shoulder, or just popped his shoulder out of socket. I think the third game against Fern Creek is Trey Martin. He was in 3 games. He had like 34 tackles and 3 interceptions at safety. So
Nice.
he's going to be a key returning starter. He was a captain for us last year as an 11th grader. So he's going to be somebody that's going to be a huge impact for us
Is he
defensively and some
is he
offense.
maybe a D1 player?
Yes, he's getting some looks right now. I know he got invited to a game up at Eastern Michigan, so he's getting several looks from different colleges and things of that
Great,
nature. So
great.
he'll be cleared to lift weights next week, but he's been working on his speed and agility since during his rehab. So he's working to
Mm-hmm.
have a good senior season. At linebacker, we have a kid named Kerryon Thompson. That is, he played linebacker, had a phenomenal season playing linebacker his first year starting. So we're looking for him to have a huge impact and be the leader on the defense as well. Um, he's been working out, buying into the strength and conditioning. So he's going to be a big help for us. Offensively, we're coming in a guy that's been in the program for 2 years. He's a sophomore quarterback, Cordell Thomas.
Mm-hmm.
So the reins are being passed to him, and he's finally becoming that leader that I thought he could be. Last year, wasn't so vocal, but this year he's seeing what the program, direction the program's going, and he's like, Coach, I want to be that vocal leader, that guy that the kids look up to. So he's gonna, lead the offense at quarterback. Small in
Fantastic.
stature, but he has a huge arm, and he's gonna be tough to. He's gonna be tough for us. And
Good.
then receiving wise, Braylon Gray. He his production was behind the Cam Holloways and Jaden Berkeley's last year, but he had 4 touchdowns and probably about 300 yards receiving. So we're looking for him to be that go-to guy this year at the receiving. Catch the ball 5 yard outs, be able to turn it up, and have a lot of yak yards. So he has a lot of talent.
Great. Well, appreciate that, Coach. Just to wrap up, looking ahead, you've got spring football coming up. Everybody kind of approaches spring a little bit differently. What's going to be the primary focus of your program as you head into spring? And, what are maybe the top 2 or 3 issues that you and your staff need to address to, get this team really running full speed into summer and ready to open the 25 season?
I'm going to say uh, just alignment and assignment. With these kids, a lot of these kids being young players, freshmen and sophomores stepping in, taking it
Mm-hmm.
down, breaking it down, making sure they understand, the next level of varsity playbook.
Sure.
That playbook looks a lot different than the freshman, playbook, just JV playbook. So just breaking it down so they understand the
Yeah.
concepts and things of that nature, and developing depth. I think if we could develop depth, then that's what's going to keep us going in the right direction. Having kids being able to, play, somebody goes down, not really having that drop off. Yes, we'll have that drop off, but if we can, if your drop off might be strength, but you're bringing, all the plays to the table as well, so it's going to balance out. So we could create depth. Um, this spring would be great, but
Sure.
and it gives kids that aren't playing, like, kids that are playing other sports, you got your basketball kids, your wrestling, your track kids. So
Mm-hmm.
the kids that aren't doing that, it gives them that time to get that extra coaching that they might need, going into the summer. So
You bet. You bet. Well, once again, Coach, I want to congratulate you. You're kind of down there in the deep southern part of the state and don't get a whole lot of notoriety. But personally, I think one of the best coaching jobs of the year last year to turn around a team that for 3 consecutive years, I think Jeff won one game over 3 years and come out of there in your first year and win 6 games. I mean, that's just an incredible turnaround. I guess that just sets the bar a little higher for now for this year, and raises the expectations. People might get a little used to it.
yeah, that's not a bad thing to have.
No,
I
no,
think
that's a good thing to have. That's a
just
good
like
thing to have. Well, thanks again for your time. We wish you and the program, the kids, best of luck this spring and summer, and we'll be keeping an eye on Jeffersonville football again this fall.
okay, I appreciate it. Thank you.
You bet, Coach.
Hang up.